to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Geordies here, Geordies there. It is match day, which is a rare event for us to be doing a podcast on the day of the match. But at the moment, joined by Kevin, Mitch, George, and I'll believe probably a couple more to come tonight.
Hi, everybody.
As we take you up to the kick-off time tonight. And Newcastle, of course, playing West Ham. And it's away at the London Stadium. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff live on Sky Sports. All 3,000 away tickets have been sold. This game, of course, was postponed after the death of our Queen Elizabeth II. So it's a rearranged game. Newcastle United are unbeaten in 4 Premier League visits to the capital so far this season, after wins at Spurs, Fulham, and draws at Crystal Palace and Arsenal. And at West Ham, well, they've just lost 1 of their last 5 visits, won 3 times and drawn once. Probably our most productive source of away points in the capital, it has to be said. And we've won 10 games on the road against them. As for Callum Wilson, well, he will be looking to increase his tally against West Ham. He has scored 10 goals in 12 appearances against the Hammers. And for Newcastle, he scored 3 times in 4 games against them. So a happy hunting ground for Callum Wilson. Will that change Eddie Howe's decision when he picks that team sheet? Remains to be seen. The referee tonight is Craig Pawson. He's taken charge of 3 Newcastle United games this season, and that was the 1-1 draw at Bournemouth, the 0-0, the 1-1 draw at home to Bournemouth, 0-0 at Manchester United, and 0-0 at Crystal Palace. Is that an omen for tonight's result? And VAR is David Coote. Okay, just bring in Steve Hasty as well. Good evening, Steve. So,
hi, Steve.
I guess as well, we just got to announce that it's going to be Ask George halfway through the show. So if you've got an Ask George question, get them in tonight. So Kevin, we'll start with you. You were in first today. So, what are you expecting from tonight's game? First of all, are you expecting Eddie to ring the changes? He's got 3 games in a week, but there again, Newcastle are coming off the back of a wonderful performance against Manchester United. We're yet to find out, whether there is an injury to Willock or not. He was very coy and refused to give anything away yesterday, which we're used to with Eddie Howe. But what are you expecting from his team selection tonight?
Again, like you said, depends on the fitness of players and the mental and the recovery process, what they went through. It's a short turnaround from Sunday to today. But I don't think it'll be wholesale changes if Willock's unfit. I think he'd probably just bring Joe Linton in, stay with ASM, play the same front 3, and just make that one change, really. So I'll go with the same. But that one, it all depends on the fitness of Joe Willock, to be fair. Because I think it was a hamstring, I believe, or a hamstring injury. But yeah, I think, again, from a team talks perspective, just do the same again. Have the same mentality, have the same outputs that you have individually and as a collective. So I think it's going to be a positive result tonight.
Okay, Mitch, same again tonight. If Joe Willock, passes a fitness test, would you go see him again, or can you see him tinkering a little bit tonight? Because Callum Wilson, of course, he's got a little hold over West Ham, and he'd be itching to score tonight, especially after getting that goal at the weekend.
I can totally see him rotating. He's already made a big thing through 3 games, 6 days, hard ask. He'll use the squad to the max. And I think we will see rotation tonight. And I think what we've seen from those who came off the bench is that it probably won't matter who he puts in. Everybody's going to be given it's something different, bringing something different to the party. It's a squad game. We've got a very together squad, so for me it doesn't matter. But I can't see him. I can't see him rotating. I really can't.
Steve, your thoughts on his team selection, and is he going to move? Is he going to move one or two players and give people an opportunity to have a rest tonight?
I think he might. Steve, I really do. I think let's take Willock as an example. It wasn't long that Willock was out for a few weeks with what seemed like a very similar injury, hamstring. So I think, to be on the safe side, it might be that you keep him for Saturday, just make sure that he's okay. And you've got a ready-made replacement in Joe Linton. The question then is whether or not he also plays ASM or whether he plays Elliot Anderson. Their options again. You look at ASM, and he's had a decent run in the team, and perhaps taking him out of the firing line just until the weekend might be a useful one as well. And then Wilson, as you say, I think he scored 12 goals against West Ham. So he has a great record, and he'd be itching. He does that podcast with Antonio. They're obviously very good friends, and there's a bit of a rivalry going on there. So and again, you look at the situation. Isaac, you can't knock his performances, but maybe he's again with his fitness record that Howe's been quite open about in terms of getting back week. Maybe a week off might suit him as well. So it's no matter what he does, though, Steve, I'm not that concerned. I'm not that worried. I think the back five just automatically chooses itself.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think the back four, unless there's an injury, always picks itself. George, your view on squad rotation tonight, is there an opportunity maybe for Lascelles coming in and Shaw being dropped, according to Michael Day there?
Well, there's an opportunity for him to do what he likes, really, and that's because, as Neil said and others said, the ones that came on Sunday, you would never notice that there had been changes. They just slotted in and did the job, and that's what we want. The other side of it, of course, is that 3 very tough matches in a short space of time. It would be useful to let some of the people that are prone to muscle pulls and hamstrings, those sorts of things, they definitely benefit from rest. There are other injuries like Bruno's ankle injury, which sometimes are better off keeping them going, giving them some exercise. So I wouldn't be surprised if he rotated. I wouldn't be upset if he didn't, though. But if he doesn't, I suspect the substitute changes would be a lot sooner than they were on Sunday. I don't think he'll go past an hour with the same team. On the hour, I think you'll see the three substitutions if he doesn't rotate. But I wouldn't be surprised if he just took the opportunity to give some of the people that have are prone to pulls and like Isak is his injury is a muscle injury, and if Willicks is a muscle injury, playing them when they're not really fit is a recipe for disaster. It turns 1 week off into about 2 months off, and we don't need any of that just now. So why risk it when we've got a bench that could cope with it?
Yeah, Al-Walid, any changes tonight, do you think, from Eddie Howe?
I believe if there is no injury, even that, they will have to rotate. So what about if there is exhaustion and injury? So I can't tell when the 3 substitution happen at once, or he tried to start with 3 substitution in Manchester game, but he let Wilson late for after all. So I believe it must be a rotation, and there is a Brentford game on the weekend, so he need to balance. And it's not. We still have 11. With tonight game, we have 11 games. So it's really dangerous games and important games. So it's 11 is 33 points. So must be a rotation, and it's time to use the bench. And we trust the bench of Newcastle. It's their opportunity to give something for the team.
Yeah, most certainly is. For me, I don't think Mitch is far from been spot on tonight. I think there will be a little bit of rotation tonight. I genuinely think that he will decide to rest one or two players. Willock, I think, will be out. Listening to the press conference yesterday, Razor was the first person to ask it from BBC Radio Newcastle. His answer was very simple. I've not seen him. It's too early to assess it as well. So, yeah, I can't imagine he's going to be fit. But we've had a bit of kidology, from him. And the form that Willock's been in, especially with him scoring the goal at the weekend, I can potentially, see him. If there's any opportunity to play him, I can see him playing. And I found it interesting that, just the stats, for instance, in the last 3 games, he's had 11 shots on target, as opposed to, the 3 games prior to that, he'd had none in the game. So he's clearly getting more forward, clearly getting into those positions, and clearly getting the opportunity to put the ball in the back of the net, which is going to take the pressure off the forwards if your midfield's chipping in as well. There was a couple of questions came in early. So Mark Byers, I love this one. We'll ask it. Al-Walid, I'll ask you first. Question for the panel. Would you switch Sunday's result, 2-0 against Manchester United, for the cup final result? Would you have preferred to have won the cup?
Of course, we won the cup, but I think this is we will have we have to accept what happened, and we just think about the future. We shouldn't think about the past, really.
Good answer. George, would you like to have swapped that result? Was there a part of you on Sunday that went, God, I wish we'd won the cup final 2-0, and I could have lost that league game? I've got to be honest, I didn't. I was delighted that we won the league game. It is what it is.
I think we demonstrated why we should have won the cup, but that we didn't isn't a heartbreaker for me. Sitting there third on merit, with games in hand, with the possibility of European football, makes up for it all as far as I'm concerned. Because we didn't just beat them on Sunday. We really shellacked it. That should have been another 5-0 for me. Yeah, so all of that makes the result of the League Cup sad, but not the end of the world. We'll get that opportunity again, and soon, in my opinion.
Yeah, won't be another 24 years, I don't think. Steve,
no.
Part of you wished that had been the cup final rather than the league game?
Not really, because I went into this game as though this was revenge for the Charity Shield. And that's the way I looked at it. I'm living way back in the past, and I just looked at that and thought, you know what, this is the revenge for our trip to the Charity Shield and then the 5 out. That sort of thing. It's one of those things. Mark, he's mischievous, isn't he? He's being a little bit mischievous there. He's trying to catch you on the hop, because he's probably going to put up loads of quotes of how we all said that we would take a cup win over finishing 4th, but that was 3 weeks ago. So I think we've just got to let bygones be bygones and just wallow in what was a really, really good performance on Sunday. Probably the best of the season. Certainly the best result that we were happy to languish in, and we can look back in hindsight, but it's gone. The cup's gone. It was only the League Cup anyway. So,
Mitch, anybody across there, you included? I think he's frozen in picture. I hope your sound hasn't frozen, Mitch. But anybody there wishing that Newcastle United had kept that performance for the cup as opposed to the league?
No, he's lost.
Yeah, he's gone. Your reception's poor, Mitch. I'll take you out and bring you back in. Kevin?
I mean, yeah, we all would have loved a cup win, but at the same time, they didn't perform on the day. So, we can't have it all. We would like it all, but it is what it is. Like everybody said, it is what it is. You move on. Like Al-Walid said, you live in the present, not the past. And that's a great statement to have. And I mean, yeah, of course, if we performed like that, we would have probably smashed them again. But look, you take game by game as an Eddie Howe quote. It's the next one. You move on. It is what it is. It happened. We'll move on to the next game. We'll just go on a 3-match unbeaten run and just completely forget about it. Essentially, yes, we all would love a trophy. We all do. But like Steve Facey said, it's only the Carabao Cup, Carling Cup, Milk Cup, whatever it's called. You know what I mean? So, look, we'll get there another day. Our time's coming. So I think, yeah, the in the bigger picture, larger scheme of things, the 3 points on Sunday was a bigger result overall moving forward.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, for me, it is what it is. Had we played Manchester United 4 weeks earlier or 4 weeks later, then for me, we would have had the League Cup in our cupboard by now. But it wasn't meant to be, unfortunately. Mitch, you know the question. What's your answer?
No, because I think if we'd won the cup, would we have taken our foot off the gas a little bit? And we'll be looking at these run of games with a very different eye. I think since the cup defeat, we've come back from it very determined to right a few wrongs. And so you can never really say how we would have reacted had we won it. I think it's a tantalising and an inevitable question. Because it certainly went through my mind at the weekend. God, I wish we played like this at the cup final. Because if we had, we'd have hammered them on that day. But maybe we've got to, this is what we've said about us as a club entirely, not just as the players, but as the fans, and from top to bottom of the club, we've got to learn to be winners, and that's part of the learning process. And we've shown we know we can do it. We know on the day we can do it. We now have to learn how to turn it on the right days.
Yeah, very true, very true. It's a learning curve for Newcastle United in this period. It's not all just going to happen overnight, and that's part of the enjoyment. I know for some people who can be impatient, it's part of the agony. But for me, it should be part of the exciting journey that we're all on as Newcastle United fans. And going to be ups and downs still, but the downs are going to be a damn sight easier to take than they were under Ashley. That's for certain. But ASM. Often talked about and often compared and often criticised. But Eddie Howe this week, Kevin, at the press conference yesterday, when asked if ASM was part of the near future and the future, said yes. He's very happy with his progress. He's very happy with his performances. He appreciates the uniqueness of ASM, and he paid him tribute as a dribbler, but he more or less said, he's even come out in his own interviews and been asked, could you have left the club? And he said, yeah, I could have left in January, but he's committed to the club. The club seemed committed to him. Eddie Howe seems committed to him. So is that good news for us moving forward? Are you happy with that? Or, do you think there's a little bit of kidology going on with that as well?
I'm happy with that. It's a very fine balance with the ASM. We've discussed on this, and others on other shows have said, how to get the best out of him on a consistent basis. Because I didn't think he was fantastic on Sunday, but I thought he had an okay game. Yes, he cut inside, but when I think it was in the first half, he just cut in and then give the ball away on the edge of our box and stuff. I can see the thought process behind it. I can see his understanding behind it, which he's been coached to do, but the execution wasn't to the standard what we're probably expecting of him. So I think if he, crosses that bridge, if you will, in terms of performance and his mentality and what Eddie Howe wants from him, not to rein him in essentially, but to let him have freedom and express himself going further forward. But again, there's other things in the game what Eddie Howe wants him to do. So I think he's at a very interesting crossroads in his career at Newcastle United. Is he going to be all in, like we said previously, or is he going to down tools and see something what happens in the summer? From what comments of Eddie Howe and the player at ASM himself, is that he wants to give it a go. But the big but is he willing to do that? Is he willing to do everything at all costs? Yes, be the dribbler, be this, be that, be that. But is he willing to do it himself? And that's my bigger concern. I'm not sure he is, but I would love to see him. I would love to see it. We all do, because he can be a fantastic, he can rip anybody apart on his day. But again, it's up to him. I mean, I would love to see him be again a cult hero. He kind of is already, but he's that maverick one where we all jump on his back because he does this, does that. But I think he's got a big point from now to the end of the season if he wants an extended stay, which he already has, but again, a prominent place in the team. I think he's got to perform as to what Eddie Howe wants, and I think he's getting there. It's taking a bit of time, but he's getting there. So I would like to see him beyond the summer. If he moves on, he moves on. If he doesn't, let's see what he brings next year.
ASM Outstanding Creator was part of each chance. Ask Malcolm to get off his back. Malcolm was complimentary towards him after the game. That's for certain. ASM Al-Walid, are you surprised to hear Eddie Howe say that he's part of his plans?
No, of course, because we remember all our questions about Saint-Maximin, and I believe he have the answers, and he gave us the answers on Manchester game. The way he assists, I think this is, I'm not exaggerating, but this is, I believe, the best assist in Premier League this season. The way he fly and all the comment on Twitter after the game, it's a lot about Maximin and his assist and how to use his skill in service of the team. I'm happy that he's have like kind of editing or modificate his talent, his skills into the team style of play, and I'm expecting more from Maxi.
Yeah. Mitch, we've spoken about him many times. It was a really positive game from ASM. Great header across the box as well for that opening goal. But yeah, all in all, there's been massive improvement. I've got to be honest, and I think that what Eddie Howe was trying to say yesterday was that Newcastle United have to get the best out of him. There's a fine balance, which is what Kevin said, and it's that when everyone hits that targets and works as a unit, that's when you see the best. That's when you see the best from him. So, from his perspective, he's very happy with ASM.
I don't know what's changed in the last 2 weeks, but something has. His rhetoric's different. His body language is different. He seems happier, and everybody seems happier with him. I was wondering what was going on when they were over here, because initially when they all came over, he was in a different hotel to everybody else on his own. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what's going on? But something's changed for me. And we've seen that on the pitch. That performance from him was magnificent. If you look at that first goal, a couple of things really stand out for me. If you start the move on that left-hand side with Byrne taking the throw, you then had Willock and ASM's determination on that left-hand side to get through. When the ball got cleared and then Botman won it back, it was straight back in, but then across to the right-hand side. And all in all, I think it was only Shea and Pope didn't touch the ball out the goal 11. It's a proper team goal. But then when that chip across comes from Bruno, that header is spectacular. It's not just good. It's not just good. It's weird. It's beyond good. Power, full stretch, get it in the right spot in the box. 4 defenders in one black and white shirt, and he gets it in the right spot on the money. It was interesting to see while Willock was wheeling away, ASM turned around to the Gallagher end, and then Murphy was on him in a shot. And again, like I say, for me, there's something changed in the last couple of weeks, and I don't know what it is. But I'm all for it, because this is all we want. Is we want to see Maxi doing stuff like that. Because when he does stuff like that, even Trippier said in training, hardest player I've ever had to play against, and that tells you a lot. He's played with some very, very, very good players, and I think if it stays like this, like I say, we all benefit. You can't grumble at all. But we do need, and I think the comments there are quite right, if he's playing again tonight, we need another one of them, mate. We need a bit of consistency. I know that's difficult with mercurial players, but Eddie Howe seems very happy at the moment. And so, again, we run with the manager's thoughts and feelings, and long may it continue.
Yeah. Steve Wilkinson, good evening.
Sorry, I'm late. I didn't get the memo until.
Don't worry, mate. Don't worry. You've had a lot on your mind, mate. Good to see you back. Good to see you back home, mate.
Thank you for all the best wishes off everybody. It's I'm not 100%, but I'm getting there.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, mate. Yeah, ESM, we're just talking about what, you know, a positive performance at the weekend, first and foremost. But, you know, he has been on the incline after recovering from an injury. And Eddie Howe, when asked the question, you know, is ESM part of your near future plans and your future plans? He said yes.
Yeah. Well, I think Mitch, key word Mitch said there was consistency. We want that tonight. We want it at Brentford at the weekend. We want it at Villa next week. And if he's going to stay in the team, we want it all the time, and up to the level that everybody else is performing. Because most of the team, why Eddie Howe's been able to change an team so much is that all of the players have been playing well, and we can't carry any passengers. And while that was a great performance, not as good, I don't think, as the Man City one. After the Man City, I think that was the Wolves game when he scored probably the goal of the season. But apart from that, he didn't have a very good game. And would need him to be playing and delivering that sort of performance as a team player, not the individual. And I think he certainly cut out all the fancy dance tricks that he did. That they're well in the past. I would think you get a bollocking if he does any of that sort of thing again. But I think it's about consistency and you know, bring it on. We know he's got the skills. We know he can contribute either in passing and creating goals as he did eventually on there. And he probably should have created two more had the finishing of Willock and Longstaff been good enough in the first half, which is exactly what Supermax always said. How many goals did he score? How many goals did he create? And you know, he contributed on that on Sunday. So same again, please, tonight.
Yeah, same again, George.
Yes, I mean, I don't. You know, I've never heard anybody on here saying that Maxie's a bad player. Everybody knows he's a good player. Just they want to see the best Maxie they can. And Sunday was very close to the very best. But I'd like to sum up what Neil said in one word, and that's awareness. He had an awareness on Sunday that hasn't been evident for a long time. Yes, he did his individual things very cutely and very cleverly and entertained people and all the rest of it. But his awareness about what was around him and who was close to him isn't always there. On Sunday it was. That header wasn't just a great header. It was a header in the right place. And it had to be in the right place. Now that shows the awareness that he hasn't been displaying well most of the season, I've got to say. So something's going right for him, and I'm delighted because there's nothing like a player with the ball skills that he's got when they're on song, entertaining the crowd and causing the opposition absolute mayhem. So no, I'm delighted with what happened, and we just want some more. That's all, just some more, please.
Yes, Steve, long may it continue, and you know, it's a positive. Eddie Howe doesn't want to get rid of players who are committed to the cause and doing the best for the team, and ultimately, I just think it was interesting that, you know, to hear, you know, that he has put the effort in with him, and he's responded to it, and I think that's the key, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, he's responded to what Howe wants. He's responded to what the rest of the coaches want, and what coaches and Howe want from the team. And what they want him to provide. I noticed that he almost played on Sunday as a sort of reverse Almiron, didn't he? You know, always cutting inside, because what we're trying to do and what it appears to me is we're not wanting to get down the channel, and we're not wanting to get to the byline and get a cross in, especially against a team like Man United, because we know that's bread and butter for the likes of Varane in the box. So we seem to be playing a style of football where we're playing those little inside left, right passes. We've seen it. It's the sort of thing that Bruno does with ease. Joe Willock getting on the end of it in previous games. And we've now got ASM looking to do those similar like touch feed passes through with a fullback cutting across or cutting in, or somebody breaking. So I think it's the performance we're getting from him is very much based on what's happening on the training pitch and what's been drilled into them, and maybe the pennies dropped that, you know, there's an ulterior motive behind why we're asking you to play like this. And yes, with a player like ASM, you don't want to lose those mercurial skills and attributes that he has. And when he does them at the right time in the right place and they come off, they're absolutely fantastic. I mean, there's nobody more than me who loved the Lauren Robert, loved the Nobby Solano, David Ginola, and then going way back into into the history books at Jinky Jimmy Smith, who would play nutmegs with ease, and count them up on his hands as he was doing them and waving to the crowd. And I like those flamboyant players, but the way that Newcastle play with the pace, it's something that is an extra rather than a given, and it's something that has to be done at the right time. I'm quite happy for it to be entertaining the crowd when we're 3-0 up. It's very much a team game until we get to that point, and then we can put on the little flicks, because we're at the sharp end of the season where results matter, and the target is Champions League. And to get to the Champions League, finishing positions, you have to stick by what the coach wants, and I think that's what ESM's finally caught onto.
Yeah, I think that's right. And, again, it's a sign of a good coach, a good manager, in the sense that, he's managing to get the best out of ESM. He's finally starting to get, reap the dividends of his work. And long may that continue. Okay, halfway through the show, time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks also to Mr. Vicky's, handmade in Cumbria. These sauces are really hot stuff. You can order them by emailing info@mrvickys.co.uk or by telephoning 01768 210 102. Thanks to Neil and the guys at Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. If you want to subscribe to the show, hit the subscribe button tonight. It is free. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video, and click share to share to your other social media. If you want to join the channel, hit join. There's 3 different tiers. Pick the one that suits you and help support the channel financially. If you want to pay a one-off membership fee of £25 and get these goodies, a scarf, a pen, a cup, and entry into the monthly draw, then go to NUFC Matters and look for membership pack. Failing that, get your smartphone and put it over the QR code, and it will take you straight there. We're also a podcast, and you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and other podcast providers. Usually goes up 24 hours after the show has finished. We also support the food bank on this channel. If you want to make a virtual donation today at the Matchday Bucket, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and you can make a deposit today. Don't forget to enter the Shearer raffle. There's 150 tickets, £1 per ticket, and you can win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball. Enter now at nufcmatters.com. If you have a look on our website, we've also got a vast range of mugs, t-shirts, cups, and whatever else takes your fancy. The Isaac t-shirt is proven popular this month, $16.99 plus delivery from nufcmatters.com. Don't forget as well, we do a range of events over the course of the year. We have Peter Beardsley, an up-close and personal evening at the Tynemouth Surf Cafe. Limited tickets remain, 25th of April. Get them now from Surf Cafe, tynemouth.co.uk or from ticketweb.uk. There's also an evening with Peter Beardsley on May the 19th at the Tyneside Irish Centre, and you can get tickets from newcastlelegends.com, and tickets are £50. Don't forget, our end of season do takes place 27th of May, 7 o'clock at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets for that one are a tenner, and nufcmatters.com is where you can get your tickets for that. In June, Thursday the 1st of June to be precise, Rob Lee will be at Louis Liquor Store in the Big Market in Newcastle, and tickets for that are available direct from the venue. And an evening with Rob Lee, Lee Clark and John Beresford takes place the next evening on Friday the 2nd of June at the Grand Hotel in Gosforth. This is a charity event and tables are of £10, £700, and you can book them by contacting Natalie at heelandtoe.org.uk or visiting their website. In July, Gavin Peacock is in Newcastle on July the 10th at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets for that are available from nufcmatters.com. And he also takes an evening with at the Surf Cafe in Tynemouth on the 11th of July. So get your tickets direct from the venue for that one as well. And if you're a boxing fan, the Night of Champions, Ricky Hatton, Frank Bruno, Nigel Benn and Joe Calzaghe takes place at the Fed. And that will be taking place on the 16th of June. More dates to be added. Tickets from all those events, www.goldstarpromotions.co.uk. Okay, it is time for Ask George. George, I was at Dunstan's match last night and I got stopped going out of the ground by a supporter saying, can you ask George if he remembers a game when Newcastle played Spurs and Jimmy Greaves scored all the goals? He says, I've been listening to your show. He says, I love George's Those Were the Days. He says, but he says, I think it was televised. He says, I just want to know if George can remember it. I think I've seen that one, George.
Me too. Trying to remember the year, but yes, I do remember such a game. The trouble is with Jimmy Greaves and Spurs, every time he played, he scored against. It was difficult to stop him. But there was a game, I think.
Or was it Chelsea? Did he say?
No.
Did he play for Chelsea, Jimmy Greaves, or did he just play?
Of course, he started. He started with Chelsea. He was a teenager with Chelsea. He played in the Youth Cup the same year that our lot won the Youth Cup up here. And because I remember being taken on the bus to the challenge match between Newcastle and Chelsea as a means of persuading me to sign schoolboy forms to Newcastle, just sitting at the back of the bus going down to London. And that was fantastic experience.
It was Chelsea, George. March 61. Greaves scored 4 times for Chelsea at St. James's Park in a 6-1 demolition.
Well, we'll not be far coming up to that shortly in those were the days. But yes, I do remember being there. It was tremendous. And just, in fact, if I remember rightly, typical Newcastle fans, I think he actually got applauded off the pitch.
Yeah, probably would have.
Which is unusual for an away player, but it was such an epic performance. I mean, he just tore apart. But yes, now that I've thought about it, yes.
There we go. All right then. David Smart says, George, did you ever go to St. James's Hall?
Yes. And once was a reserve in boxing matches at St. James's Hall. As I went to Wallsend Boys Club as a kid, and as well as being a footballer, I wanted to be a boxer. But I'd forgotten that if you just look at my nose, it bleeds. And that's not a good thing for somebody who wants to be a boxer. So they took us in the team, but I was only a reserve, so I would only get a fight if one of the others cried off. As it happens, about 2 days before it was, and after it was, and Boys Clubs when we were sparring, somebody clipped my eyebrow and split my eyebrow, and there was enough blood to fill a cup, So that was the end of the boxing. Boxing was finished after that. But yes, the other thing I went to St. James's Hall for was the wrestling. My father-in-law was a wrestling maniac, loved the telly wrestling. Even the old Granny Rennie, who was a dear, charming old lady, loved the wrestling. Mick McManus, she used to go mad when Mick McManus, oh, look at him, he's dirty and all that sort of thing. So yes, went to St. James's Hall for the wrestling as well. So yes, this is a short answer, yeah.
Alan McKenzie says, ask George, Albert Bennett, George, am I remembering correctly, standing in the centre paddock with my granddad, seeing him coming onto the pitch with a woodbine in his mouth? A woodbine's a cigarette, I'll believe.
Not Albert Bennett. It said it about Joe Harvey. I can remember seeing Joe Harvey stubble one out just before he went on the pitch. And with Leeds, Jack Charlton. Jack Charlton did that when I was in the paddock, but not Albert Bennett. If there's anything to remember about Albert Bennett, he had Yeah, he had horse racing horse ankles, and they were always strapped up. He was like ESM. He had more white tape on his ankles than you could throw a stick at. But I can't ever remember Albert having a cigarette. No.
Yeah, we pretty much all used to have a cigarette in the dressing room, but yeah, coming out's a little bit different with one sticking in the mouth. Gary Milligan says, "Can you ask George who's the best player he's played with and against, and is there anyone he thinks could play today from back in the day?"
Well, you know where I'm going with the one playing today from back in the day, and that's Jackie Milburn. Always go there because he was before his time, Jackie Milburn. But never mind. Players I played against, well, in direct opposition, if you might all remember the Liverpool Preston stroke Liverpool winger Peter Thompson. Well, Peter Thompson was on a winger for Cumbria boys when I was the fullback for Northumberland boys. In fact, I was deliberately put fullback for Northumberland because they knew Peter Thompson was going to be in the Cumberland side. So Peter Thompson was would be one of the biggest ones, the best ones that I've played against. The other one, of course, is when I was playing the representative side at Scotland at Easter Road at Hibs Ground, and I was directly against a little lad called Billy Bremner, who gave me a real run around. I mean, I can only be honest and say that he just I couldn't even kick him. He was so quick. Billy Bremner was the other one. And what was the other part of the question? Who I've played with?
Yeah.
Oh, right. In terms of people who got to our first team, people like George Dalton. Trying to think who else about that era who went into the first team. When I played with the B team, when they used to use the A and the B team for players that were coming back for fitness to give them a run out, and once or twice I played with Frank Brennan was in one of the teams just to give him a run out in the B team Northern Combination. Where we played at Swalwell. Can you imagine big Frank Brennan running out at Swalwell? But he did. And who else? Struggling to remember the other names. But yeah, it was quite a few of the first teamers who, when we're getting fit, then they used to put them in the A team and the B team. And of course, the biggest highlight for me was turning up to St James's Park one day as a 15-year-old, and Benny Craig, the trainer, said, "I've got to take you to Wallsend to North Road," which is where they used to play the A-team games. Where the West Home Farm Club is now?
Yeah.
Well, that used to be a Newcastle United football ground, believe it or not. And the A-team used to play, and the A-team used to play there. And so Benny Craig says, "They need a left back on for the A-team. I'm taking you down there, George." And I went down and he took us into the dressing room and he said, "The manager will sort you out when you get in the dressing room." Well, who was the manager? Jackie Milburn. Well, I couldn't speak, never mind bloody breathe, standing next to Jackie Milburn to think I was going to be playing in a team that he was managing. So that completes the circle, if you like.
Okay. Does George remember old Stevie Charlton?
Yes, very much. And I have a confession to make. Myself and my son and our friends did make Stevie Charlton's night difficult one time when we decided to go on a bus. Can you remember, Neil? We went to Blackburn for a match, and I had been in hospital, so the lads wouldn't let me drive. So they said, "No, we're going to the match, but we're going on the bus." So we went on the bus, and we tried, as always, to get all seats on the same bus. Because if you don't, you could be here, there, or anywhere. No chance of getting back together once they split you up. Well, the bus in front of ours had enough seats, bar one. And the person that was sitting in the front seat was poor old Stevie Charlton. So the driver persuaded poor Stevie Charlton to come off that bus and go on the one behind that they wanted us to go on. And we went and placed the Stevie Charlton. So yes, I remember Stevie Charlton. What a canny old soul. But Yeah, he was. I mean, in fairness to the lads, the drivers I'm talking about, they used to look after Stevie Charlton when he went away. You know, I mean, I don't think it cost them a penny.
Nah,
You know, I think
he became a legend. He became a legendary
Yeah,
supporter.
absolutely.
Keegan put him on the pedestal, really, didn't
Absolutely.
Last,
But
last question. I guess this makes us feel all old when Tom's asking this. Ask George, in the olden days, did they have paper tickets to get into the football stadium?
I know I'm 81, but yes, it's a short answer. Yes, we still used to have paper tickets. In fact, that's what people used to queue for. They just queue to buy their tickets to go to the particularly cup matches or special games. And they were definitely paper tickets. There's no question about that. They moved the ticket boxes around. I mean, somebody once, on one of the things we did, see somebody showed a picture of people queuing in the car park, and the building in front of them had the ticket holes for the ticket box kiosks on. Well, actually, that was the old gym. They just cut holes in the wall of the old gym to make ticket boxes. So, yes, they were all paper tickets.
Okay, great stuff. Some great questions as usual. We'll have another section of that next week. Steve Middlemiss, I didn't ignore your question. I kept it back. He says, do you think it's time to put the likes of Oliver Holt in his place? His constant jibes at the club now is ridiculous. I mean, back in the old days, Kevin, Mike Ashley, not so old days, Mike had a method. He used to just ban journalists if they were saying anything about him. Is it time to ban journalists for all of this pathetic sniping at Newcastle United just because they've got a few quid in the back pocket these days?
I wouldn't say so. They've got the right to be journalists and do the job. Essentially, that's and over here it's a First Amendment right of free speech. That is their opinion, it's their thoughts. We don't have to listen to it or read his column inches, do we? So he can write what he wants. At the end of the day, we know, especially from this side and on the shows and stuff, and what actually is going on. So again, he can write what he wants. I'm going to leave that with a 10-foot pole and just let him get on with his job, let him pay his bills.
Al-Walid, it just does get frustrating if it's not having a go about ownership. They're calling Newcastle United time wasters. It's other managers having a go. I mean, it's certainly been a campaign against Newcastle, but I think we've handled it with dignity.
Well, I believe they just want a bit of fame, so that's why they're doing this. Nothing else.
Simple as that.
Yes.
Yeah, he's right. Yeah.
As simple as that. Okay, Mitch. Oliver Holt. He wouldn't be the first person to be banned from the the press box, but I mean, I don't see this ownership doing anything like that. To be fair,
that's what he wants. He wants to be made a martyr.
Yeah,
and then he can have another go. Just ignore, rise above, welcome them with a handshake, smile, and crack on, and ignore what he's coming out with. And as for journalists doing their job, there's none of them doing their job at the minute. None of them.
Fair point.
And I'm trying very hard to encourage one to do a little bit of digging, because the way everybody's reacting to the Man United farce, and I've called it out already, and I'll keep calling it out. Do your research. Do your jobs. Tell us how you can get in touch with the 9-2 Foundation. Tell us what their address is. Tell us what their email address is. Tell us what their fax number is, because these things are still things that you. Tell us how you can get in touch with them. Tell us who to speak to. Tell us who to contact. Tell us how long they've been available to be contacted. And tell us where the offices are. Do I? Because the answer is you can't. You can't. And so that should be ringing crazy alarm bells. And instead of ringing crazy alarm bells, it's letting them entertain crazy Finnish people who think they can buy half a club on tick and get the fans to pay the rest. And they're dressing that up as what a fantastic adventure for the Man United supporters trust that would be. Actually, they're very quiet at the moment, aren't they? They were the trust everybody held up as the number one trust, is what they should all be like. They should all have a war chest like MUST. They should all be engaged like MUST. They're pretty quiet at the minute as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
But for me, right now, there's lots of journalists who genuinely aren't, for whatever reason they see fit, not doing their jobs. and I'll keep going and keep banging the drum until this farce of the saga is over. And I'm telling you now, you're going to be recording me 10 minutes of me budgie smugglers telling the whole world, I told you so.
Cannot wait for that, Mitch. It's definitely hitting up out there if you're talking about budgie smugglers. Steve, yeah, journalists. Holt has continuously been defamatory towards one club without doing any research, says Stephen. C. Dan Smith, good evening, mate. Our owners are rebuilding the club in exactly the right way. They're not throwing money away. So there's always going to be criticism, isn't there, Steve? But certain journalists do just go that little bit further. And do get on a few supporters' wicks, it's got to be said.
Well, they know there's always that controversial issue around Newcastle. It's not going to go away. Amnesty International will never back down and disagree and accept that we're taking over. So there's always the angle that they're going to use them. But all we can do here is play with it. I think we talked about this last week. Play with a straight bat, do the sort of performances that we did on Sunday, and let the most of the talking be about how good we are, and we're going to hopefully achieve Champions League status. You can't dispute that, and make sure we do the thing correctly with likes of FFP, get the right sort of sponsorship deals that aren't going to be questionable, like Man City's were, and it then becomes, it doesn't matter what they say. Certainly not, as I think Mitch said, that certainly you don't want to ban him because that just makes him a martyr. And he'll just make things worse. So just ignore it, really, and we just get on with what we're doing and sod them.
Sod them, Steve says, George.
Absolutely. He's been polite, I've got to say. It's so depressing that these people get paid for, as far as I'm concerned. How on earth they earn a living with that attitude, which is nearly beyond, well, it is beyond belief sometimes, and it's just it's lack of intelligence and integrity as far as I'm concerned. I don't mind a reporter having to go and get it wrong if they've done some work to get to their viewpoint, but to just trot out the same rubbish time and time again without any supporting material behind it. It's just sheer ignorance, which disappoints me. But it's the thing about a lot of journalists at the moment. It's not just sports journalists, political journalists as well. I mean, the other day, our fascist Home Secretary came out with all this stuff, blaming Pakistani males for grooming gangs and then saying that new laws so that if you work with children, you've got to report if you think there's abuse. Two things about that. One, there's a Home Office report which you can get on the net, which says 93% of the bosses of grooming gangs are white, middle class, and doing it for money. It doesn't mention Pakistanis, their own report, and yet she's telling something else. And then in terms of reporting a new law to report abuse and all this sort of thing for people who work with children, it's already there. It's called the Children Act 1984. It already says it in there, so they're like, and they don't even challenge her about things like that. So it's not just sports journalists. There's a whole tranche of journalists who are just idle, just not doing their work. Investigative journalism at the moment is virtually dead.
Yeah, there's more of that goes on YouTube than anywhere else, I think.
Yeah.
Steve, Oliver Holt.
Oliver Holt, we can't ban him from St James's Park because he never ever comes up.
No,
he just sits in the Northwest and reports on Man United continuously. That's Oliver Holt for you. Oliver Holt should go back to being a reporter of merit like he used to be, but instead he's turned into Goliath of just wanting to be sensational. If he wanted to be sensational, why didn't he just keep writing about his mum in Coronation Street? And then he could have got the sensational storylines for free instead of having to make them up about Newcastle United. That's the way I look at it. I mean, he's incidental. He means absolutely nothing in football circles as a reporter. And if anything, he's a bit like a lot of reporters these days. They've turned into media stars. They're not reporters. they're media stars. They spend more time in front of TV cameras than they do actually sitting behind a computer or a typewriter or with a pen and paper in their hand or a dictaphone at a press conference, doing the job that they're supposed to be doing, which is questioning sports personalities, questioning sports people, talking about the game. Instead, they want to have a political little bias about anything that they write. Because it's for their own ends. It's to keep their name in the frame and to keep them feeling as though they're relevant. And Oliver Holt's not relevant in Newcastle United, and he can stay in the Northwest for all I'm concerned.
Great stuff, great opinions. Just time to squeeze in the predictions for tonight's game. So, Steve, I'm going to come to you first.
2-0. Home away win, 2-0. Continue with our fine form. I'm not going to project the goal scorer because I can't quite make up my mind what the lineup's going to be yet.
Okay. George, your prediction for tonight's game?
Oh, Ditto and Wilson Longstaff, the goal scorers.
Wilson and Longstaff. Okay. Steve Wilkinson?
I'm going to go 1-0, and I'm going to go with Wilson to score because he's got a great record against West Ham, whoever he's played for. So I think he'll get the goal.
Okay, James Bond says 0-3. Murphy to get one of them. Kevin, come to you.
3-0.
3-0. Okay, I will lead your prediction.
2-1 Newcastle.
You've gone for the same as Tom Dixon. He's gone Isaac and Longstaff with the goals. And Mitch, have we got the dice or we're going for a good old-fashioned
different
prediction?
bag on us. I'm going for an old-fashioned prediction. I've done a little bit of digging this week. They score less than a goal a game, and they've conceded 25% of their goals in the last 10 minutes of games. So tells me that there's fitness issues there. In fact, it's like us under Bruce. And I can see us, if we get on top early, we could thrash these tonight, and I'm going to stick me neck out. I would say 4-0.
Oh, 4-0. I'm going for a 2-0 at the night, lads. Definitely 2-0. I think Newcastle will do well. I think they'll West Ham, as I say, will start with a bit between their teeth, but I think Newcastle will break them down. I'm going 2-0 in the end. I fancy Wilson for a goal tonight, and maybe Botman tonight. Maybe tonight's the night that he breaks his duck. So we will see.
One. Yeah.
David Smart, 20-0. I think it's a typo, David. I think
Poor journalism.
I think you meant 2-0. And Alan says, like the confidence in the team, 2-0 away win. Isaac first goal. Lots of people going for 2-0.
It's interesting what Mitch said, Steve, and he said about the last 10 minutes and the fitness. I think it's more fear. I don't think it's fitness with them. I think it's fear. I think they're frightened of the crowd. I think when they
you could say we were under Bruce as well, mate. Right?
Exactly the same. They step back, they play a little bit deeper. The crowd then get at them because the crowd are very much like us in terms of they like to see fast flow and attacking football, allegedly. So I think it's more that than a fitness thing. I think it's a fear aspect that they have with certain members of that squad. So I think we've just got to exploit that.
Yeah, Stu Flyboy says 3-0 Toon win. Trippier and Isaac 2. Mozart's gone for a Penman without the 1. Botman first goal from a set piece to open the scoring. Maxi and then Isaac brace, says Kevin 4 for him. John, 20 years optimistic. And the team news is an hour before the game. So keep an eye out on Twitter, Tom. Like to see Elliot or Gordon score. Yeah, me too. Okay. Thanks everybody in the chat. Thanks to the moderators who were in the chat as well for doing a splendid job. And thanks to Kevin. I will lead Mitch, Steve, George, and Steve Hasty for another
good to see you, lads.
Our chat. I'm back tomorrow, 6 o'clock with the Super Mac and Gibbo show. We're going to have to pre-record the Amigos tomorrow for Friday, but it will be on at the usual time on Friday at 5 o'clock. 6, for 2 hours. Okay, lads, thanks very much. Take care, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Cheers, lads. Cheers, everybody.
All the best, Joe.